Hey, what's up? Hello, Katie here. Welcome to or welcome back to my channel. And as of the title of this video, you already know that I'm a giant liar, that I lied to myself and I lied to you. Do you remember a couple of weeks ago when I said that I would never read The Stand? Ever, point blank? Do you remember when I told you that my brother has sent me the physical copy twice and that multiple people in my life have told me that it's their favorite book? And I was like, Justin, I'm never gonna read it. Get over it. Well, look at me now. Yeah, so I read The Stand, okay? I read all 1,172 pages of it. And if you already don't think that that's too big of a book, have you seen the font on the page? You have no idea. You cannot begin to comprehend. The writing is so incredibly small, okay? I listened to the audio because I don't hate myself that much, you know what I'm saying? But it is a 49-hour audiobook. And because of that, it took me a very long time to read this. So this reading vlog is not going to have any B-roll. So if you came here for a calming experience, this ain't it, sis. It will be spoiler free for the most part. Like, I'll talk about things that happen in the book, but it'll be more of a, oh, well, a character dies, but I won't say who it is or really like how it happened necessarily. So it is spoiler free, but since there's no B-roll, this is going to be pretty chaotic. It's just me jumping in whenever I feel something about the book or I feel something about the reading experience. So it's going to be a lot of talking head clips just mashed all together. I think that if you like The Stand or if you want to know about The Stand without having to read it, stay tuned. But other than that, let's just jump into this chaotic mess. I'm doing my makeup and making a terrible decision. I should have come to you before I started my makeup, but I didn't think about it. But I just started listening to The Stand by Stephen King, and this is the uncut version, which has 400 extra pages. So that's a mistake in itself. I don't know what I'm doing. Why am I listening to this book? I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to finish it. I have no idea. But what I can tell you is that I'm only on the first couple pages and I'm already unsettled. I'm already like, have goosebumps. I got to chapter 5 and I'm already scared. I'm already scared. It's scary. It's about the coronavirus, basically. And it's like, it starts in the CDC. It's like, it was a little confusing. He talked about boxes a lot. It was like, there's a virus in a box, and I think the person didn't put the box back the right way, and then the virus got out, and then the person who was supposed to lock the doors waited 40 seconds to lock the door, and then one person escaped out of the door, and nobody noticed that he was gone, and he went and got his family, got in the car, and was trying to outrun this virus, but he already had it. He gave it to his wife, who gave it to the baby, and then they crash into a gas station in Texas, which obviously, like, you're spreading across a couple borders there. And then the people at the gas station get it, and then they take it to their family, and that family, like, the wife takes it to somebody she's babysitting. It's just, like, fucking terrifying. Like, the spread, it's just so scary, and I'm only on chapter 5. Also, this is past me looking at editing me and saying, I'm gonna get a cold. Watch if I don't. Like, watch if I don't manifest that into reality. I'm so mad at myself. Human beings are so annoying. Do you remember a couple weeks ago when I said I would never read this book? That I would never read this book? I guess I just like challenging myself because of fucking course the second I say I'm never gonna read it, I do. And I'm on chapter 25. And for reference, I think that's out of like 78 chapters. And oh my God, it's like I'm literally like freaking out. This book, it's so good. It's so good. Like, the writing is so good. And even though like I'm on hour like 8.5 out of like 48.5, it doesn't feel like it. Like, it just is such an, not like an easy read, but so easy to listen to because it's just such a good writing style. And like, things are happening very quickly. And like, the way that things are described are just really good. Like, in my opinion, it is a very good book so far. But oh my God, the way that like the fucking creepiness is just creeping in, like the way that there's just this virus that's spreading, and it's so eerie, and it's so terrifying. Like, I just got to, this is why I was like, I had to stop listening to it and talk to you guys, because I just got to the part where Nick, like the deaf and mute guy who just like doesn't seem to be getting sick right away, or he's calling people and nobody's answering, and he's like going and knocking on doors and nobody's answering, and it's like, Oh my God, it's just so fucking sad. And then like the fact that there's like, oh my God, that guy that got me so bad was the guys that are in the jail that had like, were just being held there for a little while because they like beat the shit out of that guy. And one of them gets sick. And then the other two are like, please let me out. Like, please let us out. Let us out. Let us out. We're going to die. And he's like, well, I can't let you out. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm not a sheriff. And then the other one gets sick. And then the other guy is just like, they're both like watching this happen, like one by one, like one of them going down by dominoes, watching them get sick and die. And it's so... This book is good so far, but like at what cost? You know what I'm saying? Popping in real quick to tell you another thing that fucking got me was when there's a character whose mom dies and he doesn't know what to do, and he's at a hospital and he's like, nobody's gonna come get her, like nobody's coming to get her, this is not what things used to be. And what he does is he takes a deposit slip and he writes her name and her age and like who she is, and then bobby pins it to her blouse because he's like, I want somebody to know her. I don't know. I want somebody to know who she was. And it's so sad. So sad. And I just thought that was very interesting because I was like, who would think to do that? Like, maybe people would, but I wouldn't think to do that. And now I'm like, I'll never forget that. Like, it just like made me think. I was like, if this is something where now that I've heard that in this book, if any kind of situation like this ever happened, or like even coronavirus or anything like that, that would be what I would think. Like if somebody passed away, like, or if this situation was happening, that this scene in this book is the first thing that would come into my mind. Like, I need to put identification on them so that if the world does go on, that this person's remembered, you know, that they know what happened to them. Anyway, I think this vlog is literally just going to turn into like me just piping in every time I'm emotional about this book. Enjoy. It's another day. Listen, I know we're already into this vlog. I'm telling you, it's just going to be clips of me popping in when I'm like, what? So I had one of those moments. I didn't think about it. There's so many things about this book where I'm like, oh yeah, that would happen. Something I didn't think about is that there's like a character who can't eat. She's like, I can't eat. And he goes and he closes the window and he's like, does that make it better? And she's like, yeah, kind of. And then I stopped and I was like, oh, it's because when like 99.8% of the population dies in like a week, the world is going to smell horrible, and you're not like, the world's never going to smell the same way again. It's never going to go back, or it's going to take so long to go back to like clean air. Like, how long will it take for the smell of like decomposing bodies to disappear? Like, a lifetime? And how horrible that smell must be. And that just like, I just stopped and was like, oh my God, like the picture it's painting. Anyway, I'm gonna go eat breakfast. I have been listening to this audiobook for 13 and a half hours and I'm only like 28% in. But it's so good. Like, nobody's more surprised than me. No one is more surprised than me that I'm having such a good time. I will say that the trash man, I think is what, like, it's like, they call him a couple different things, but like the trash man, the trash can man, whatever. Don't really care. That part, I was like, can we stop talking about this guy? And also, there's a couple, and I get there are different kinds of people in this world, but there are some characters that are so annoying, or they're not like characters, they're like side characters that, they're just so annoying, that just repeat the same sentence over and over and over again. And it's like, I get it. They're like crazy or they're dying, but it's so annoying, especially to listen to, because I was reading it, I would just be like, but because you're listening to it, and the character that keeps being like, mother, 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 I was like, I'm gonna smother myself. So annoying. So annoying. Anyway, another thing, Stephen King, I know this has been said before. I'm not the first person to say this. I won't be the last. But wow, he really do be using the N-word. Like, he do. And it's like, okay, this was written in like the 70s, I think. Yeah, it's like written in the 70s. So I get that, okay? Also, he uses like the R word, he uses the F word, you know, the other one. he uses the word like whore a lot to like describe things. Like he'll just be like, oh, like a dead whore. It's like, okay. Okay. But other than that, the writing and everything is really good. And the conversations he brings up are really good. But you know, it's not perfect, and he's not perfect. There's definitely a lot of things I wish he wasn't saying. Just thought I'd say that. Holy shit. Okay, I'm on chapter 38, and it's the chapter where he's saying like all the people that didn't die of the flu but died anyway of something else, like random or whatever. And like, you know, obviously like little kids falling off their bike and dying, or somebody like dying of starvation or whatever. The part about that girl Judy, and this is not a spoiler because she's literally not a character, it's just random. But the part where it's that girl Judy who like got knocked up and it was like a pretty high school cheerleader and was like, oh my God, I wish that hadn't happened because it's like ruining my life. Like I would be so much better without that happening. And it's like, oh, and then the flu came and solved all her problems. And it's like, oh, her parents died. And she's like, well, thank God. Don't have to talk to them anymore. They can't tell me what to do. And then her son dies. And she's like, well, that was sad for a couple days, but I got over it. And then her husband's parents die, and she's like, bless. And then her husband dies, and she's like, double blessed for life. And she puts her son and her husband's freaking bodies downstairs in the freezer and goes to look at them 3 or 4 times a day. And she's like, well, I'm just checking. It's not like I'm gloating or anything. And then the door swings shut, and she can't get out, and she like starves to death in a walk-in freezer. Again, it's not a spoiler, but the fuck? I have been following these characters for like 20 hours now, and it is so freaking hard to follow their names. It's so hard. It's like, I know everything about their life story. If it says anything, like obviously like one of the characters is deaf, one of them is pregnant, one of them is a hidden piece of shit, like stuff like that. It's like, oh yeah, I know exactly everything that's happened to this character, but I have to like get a paragraph in to know who they're talking about, because I'm just like, all white men's names sound the same. Harold, Stu, Glenn. I just got to the part in The Stand where you meet the kid, and the way he talks is so disgusting. It's so backwoods, just freaking repetitive. That he calls people happy crappy is like the dumbest shit I've ever heard. It's so stupid. He infuriates me. Like, will he just shut the up? Like, I just can't stand this guy. I'm only like 5 minutes into his chapter, and I'm like, I don't even want to keep reading the book. I keep pausing it because I'm like, this guy's pissing me off. Like, he's making me so mad. I just want to punch him in the face. Like, I want a character to just come up and knock this guy out and just leave him alone and desolate and nobody ever talk to him again. He's so fucking annoying. Like, it's just, And then also the fact that, of course, the other character I can't freaking stand, Trash Can Man, is the one that's with him in this story. I'm like, perfect. Now we can just keep, I'm honestly probably going to skip their chapters. I don't care. I literally don't care. Trash Can Man is pathetic. He's spineless. He's weak. He's disgusting. Like, okay, listen, before you say anything, I get it. His father was a 2-bit piece of shit, and he had a super traumatic backstory, but I don't care. I don't care. There's a million other characters in this book that are way more fascinating to read about, and if there's a character who literally calls himself the Trash Can Man, like, we are not here for that weak shit. We're not. I literally can't. I don't know why it's probably because I've listened to like 25 hours of this book, and now I hate something about it. I'm like, why am I 25 hours in and something's pissing me off? Because that's not okay. Like, and I really don't want these two characters to be a thing, because I'm 25 hours in and I've been loving it, and now all of a sudden I don't want to read it anymore. I'm going to keep reading it, but I'm gonna keep being angry, probably. I guess I'll let you know. I'm a little worried, you guys. I'm a little worried. I'm 57% of the way into The Stand, which is quite a long ways in. And I think I have like 24 more hours, I think, of the book, which, good Lord. And it's due back in 6 days to the library. But here's the thing. We're getting into the whole everybody's having the same dream, which is interesting, and they're all being led to the same place, and there's like a shadow man and like Mother Abigail, and there's like the good and the bad, and the shadow man is like something that's present through a lot of his books, like 6 or 7 of his books or something. But I don't care about stuff like that. And like, I really don't like when Stephen King does this, because I'm like, okay, it's kind of like an It, where the thing that really threw me off of It, other than the child orgy and the fact that it was like 400 pages too long, was like the turtle on its back thing. I'm like, why was that necessary? Why was that in this book? Like, it would have been so good without that. And I really feel like that's how I'm going to feel about The Stand, is that I'm like, as of like 50% in, I was like so ride or die. I'm like, this book is like freaking 5 stars. This is so good. And then now I'm like, what's the rest of this book about? Because if it's about Mother Abigail fighting the Shadow Man, I'm not gonna like it. I'm not gonna like it because I just think it's just too ridiculous. Like, it being like a government error and it's a pandemic is so dystopian, or like just so crazy. Like, that's such a dystopian future or whatever you call that, where like shit goes awry. That's amazing because that could actually happen and it's terrifying. But then when you're throwing in this like, okay, the Shadow Man is like living inside people, or like it's like the devil and it's calling to people, I'm like, okay, you've lost me. You've completely lost me now. Like, I am totally brought out of the reading experience and can no longer connect with any of the things that are happening. I'm gonna hope that it gets better because I don't want to spend the next 24 hours feeling like this about this book. I'm 69% of the way into The Stand, and I have fallen out of love with this book. It's a totally different book now. It's literally a totally different book. The first half of the book is about a pandemic, and oh my God, that's all crazy, amazing, so good. And then this next half is about like the fight between good and evil, but like supernaturally, like the Shadow Man and like Mother Abigail. I'm like, what? Like, it's like a 108-year-old woman and then just like this country motherfucker named Randall. That's not the book that I asked for. That's not the book I picked up. That's not the book I started reading. And that's not even the book that I read 25 hours of. Now, all of a sudden, we're something new and different, and I don't like it. I have to finish this book. It's due back at the library in 3 days, and I have 11 hours left. I'm 91% of the way into The Stand, and we are on X Games mode. I have 2 days left to finish this, and 6 more hours, I think, or 5.5 more hours of the book. We're gonna make it happen, even though I have to work today and tomorrow, but we're not stopping till it's done. You know, no sleep till Brooklyn, okay? This is something I will say. I know I haven't popped in like a minute, days, but the more that we're seeing of Randall Flagg, the easier it is to kind of like pretend like he's not this like demonic shadow thingy. Like, he just seems like a psycho, and that would be so interesting to me. Like, if this was like a Negan, like from the Walking Dead thing, I would be so invested, because when Stephen King shows Randall and he's just being nuts and being like aggressively crazy, like if he was just like, I am your new leader, bow before me, and like just started like freaking plowing people down and killing them, and then that was why people were following him, that would be so fascinating. But and I'll let myself believe that, and then he'll do something stupid like levitate for no reason. Like, he just levitates just because it brings him peace. Okay, like, it's almost like Stephen King is like talking about him like he's a normal person, and then is like, oh, and then I levitated, because Stephen King's like, did you forget that he's not all human? I'm like, okay, like, whatever. But with me pretending like the supernatural stuff isn't happening, I am enjoying the book a lot more, because we aren't really talking about that as much at this point in the book. I'm really hoping that we don't even get into more supernatural shit, because I don't care about that. It's just irrelevant and unnecessary, in my opinion. It is wholly unnecessary for the book. I finished it with like 8 hours left to go before it was due to the library, and God bless. I will say, this book is a 4-star. I really, throughout the last half of the book, thought I was going to give it 3 stars. But when I'm really sitting on it and thinking about the book, it is a masterpiece. Like, the book is very, very well done. I think that the characters and their arcs are just absolutely incredible. The way that they're set up. Honestly, the diversity in the book is pretty good. I mean, it's Stephen King and it was written in like 1978. So it's really good for that time period. Like, there are like Black characters, there are gay characters, there are like Hispanic characters, there are like mentally handicapped characters. My upstairs neighbors are having sex. Well, if you hear that, fun times, it's a vibe. Anyway, there are, now they are not spoken about as highly as the white characters, which you can assume. You know, it is all happening in like Georgia and Texas and Maine, but other than that, like, the diversity does exist, which I appreciated. Stephen King obviously loves to use the N word. He loves to use the other F word. He loves to use the R word, like all of it. He loves to use all that slang, and it's not cute. It's really not, but it is Stephen King. You know, I knew that going into it. I didn't think that he was going to randomly have a book written in the 70s that was not going to portray those things. So I am aware of that. I don't enjoy that, but it did not like diminish necessarily the story as a whole. I did like the characters. The thing that got me was that the first half of the book, where we were talking about a medical and governmental mistake, was phenomenal. Like, the first half of it is so reality based. It had a lot to do with, you know, Colson that was happening right now, which was very terrifying. But what I didn't enjoy was that when he does the Stephen King thing, where he brings in a supernatural element, where this is the first book where you get to see the Shadow Man, the Tall Man, like Randall Flagg, the Dark Man, all these different things. The Man in the Suit, what was that what he's called? I don't remember. But you get to see him for the first time, and he does span across like 7 of his other works. I did not enjoy that. I don't understand like the whole God and the devil or whatever fighting against each other. I didn't think that was necessary. I think the book held better on its own without that element. I would have really enjoyed not seeing that, or maybe characters just saying they thought God was the reason why something was happening. But the whole like, oh, I saw something and it told me I had to do this. I'm like, okay. Or like, even Randall, him just as a guy was very interesting. Like, I thought that was cool. But when he would just randomly start levitating, I was like, why was that necessary? Like, that was not needed to make this a good story, and it honestly diminished it in my opinion. So I have to knock off a star for that. And also the fact that in the end, one, if you're worried that this story is going to take too long, it doesn't. I think that like the 70% to 80% mark really drug on. Like, when they're building the town, that just really drug on. Like, I was like, I don't care. I really, like, I mean, I care, but like, can we just keep going? Like, this isn't taking too long to get somewhere. But that was the only point. Things happened very quickly, but that diminished it a little bit for me, because there was several things that happened too fast. Like, there would be characters that would die that you had been reading about for like 900 pages, and then they die off page. Or it's like, oh, and then this person died and so, or, oh, 2 weeks ago, so-and-so died of blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what? Or even if they died dramatically on page, it was fast. And then it was like, we didn't even really talk about them after that. And I get it, like, this is a crazy world. But in my opinion, if you were living in a world where like everybody you know has died, and there's only 0.6% of the population that's still alive, you are going to attach to these few people that you know. And even if you've only been following them for a couple weeks, if that person dies, I would be effed up about that, because I'd be like, oh my God, at least this person knew my face. At least this person knew my name, and now they're gone. So that, I did like the ending fine. Like, I liked it. I don't really see how they could have done it, how he could have really done it better, I guess. I guess the reason that I wasn't like super in love with it was because I did not enjoy Fran as a character. She was fine, but like, in my opinion, she was whiny, and it was just like kind of annoying. I did like Stu as a character, who is arguably like our main protagonist, or at least one of them, but in my opinion, he was like the main protagonist. I liked him. I did not like Trash Can Man. I already told you that. He freaking annoyed me. I did not like Randall. I didn't like Fran. What was her name? Julie was the worst. Oh my God, she sucked. Then there was like, I liked Glenn. I liked Stu. I liked the gay couple, the women, Dana and something else. They were cool, but they were never really shown, like, ever. Nadine, she started out interesting and then just was so annoying. Honestly, all the women in the book were annoying, which it's Stephen King, so nobody's shocked. But that was whatever. Larry had such a good story arc. I really enjoyed his character. I mean, I did not enjoy him as a person. I thought he was frustrating, very frustrating, but his character arc was so good. And like, that's the kind of stuff where I'm like, Stephen King, like, you really nailed it. That was amazing. I really enjoyed that. I think that I'm probably going to end it here. If I have any more thoughts, I'll pop back in. But what I'll say in overview, if you have not read The Stand, is that I do think that it is an incredible work of art, but there is a lot of things that you're gonna have to just fly past, because there are things that you didn't sign up for when you go into it that you don't know are going to be in the book, and you're like, yeah, I don't care. So just flip past that. But honestly, the work as a whole is incredible. I think I'm happy I read it. There are quotes from this book that I will not forget, and that it really touched me in a lot of ways. It made me think about our society a little bit differently. It made me really stay up at night and think, what would I have done? So I do think it is worth your time if you have the incredible amount of time that it takes to read it. If you don't, you're not missing out necessarily. If you love Stephen King, it's probably his best work. Like, in my opinion, this and The Shining are the best Stephen King's that I've read, and this would be if you want character study, and The Shining would be if you want action and more spooky. So that's what I'll say about that. I'm going to give it 4 stars at the end of the day. I hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you want to follow me on Goodreads or Instagram, they will be linked down below. I will see you soon in a video coming soon. Have a good day. Bye.